This is the book you wrote. I want you to look at it, and I want you to read the first paragraph out loud for me.
I don't want to read this. This was a long time ago. You know, this was 1969. 31, 41, 43 years ago, you know. So, I mean, you handsome son of a gun, don't you ever die. That's the way it started.
Hawk Harrelson, 6 decades in and around the game.
Don't want the Hawk.
You can put it on the board. Yeah.
A player.
Kenny Harrelson's really on a tear.
An entertainer.
That's why this hawk always heads for the mountains.
A golfer.
And the hawk walk comes out again.
And, still today, a broadcaster.
He gone, and this ball game is over.
Above all, an objective, down-the-middle broadcaster.
No! Dadgummit, you gotta be bleeping me.
Baseball has always had its share of characters, but few more colorful or more enduring than Ken Hawk Harrelson.
Walking, keeping, squawking, talking about the clothes off.
The first game was with Dick Stockton, 1975, against the Montreal Expos in spring training from Winter Haven, Florida. And the funny thing about it is a good buddy of mine had come down from Boston to play golf with me a couple of days. And so I told our producer, I said, Bobby, I said, I got a friend down there, a good-looking guy sitting behind home plate with a blonde hair. I said, if you can, work a shot of him in, will you? So about the third inning, he called me, put it up on the ISO there, and he said, is this the guy? I said, yeah. So he was standing there with his arm around this girl, you know, and so we put him on. I said, so-and-so, my buddy Jerry from Brookline. Well, it wasn't his wife, it was his girlfriend. His wife was watching the game back in Brookline. But that was the first mistake I ever made. And then the second mistake I made in the same game was Tim Foley came to the plate. Dick asked me about Foley, and I said, well, he's a feisty little guy. I said, he's got big balls. Dick goes like this. He goes, and I walked out of the booth. I'll never forget it. My wife was waiting for me after the booth. I said, honey, let's go pack our clothes. We're going to get fired. And as it turned out, the fans, they flooded the station with calls, but they were all, hey, forget it. We loved it.
That ball hit deep. Stretch. Icho back jumps and makes the catch. You gotta be bleeping me. Mercy.
You got some early advice from Kurt Gowdy, right?
Kurt Gowdy and Howard Cosell. It was Kurt first. He called me up. This is like, we started in April, so May, probably the latter part of May, middle of May, latter part of May. He says, I'm coming to the ballpark today, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. So he comes in and we're talking. He says, okay, I've been watching you now for a while. He says, you got a chance to be a hell of an announcer. He says, I'm going to give you the best piece of advice you'll ever get. Don't try to please everybody. So a couple of weeks later, Coach calls me up, Cosell, and he said, we're coming in to Boston. He says, I want to talk to you. He comes in, he says, I'm going to give you the best piece of advice you're ever going to get in broadcasting. He says, one of these days you got a chance to be a hell of a broadcaster, but don't try to please everybody. It was amazing because it was in the space of like 2 weeks. You know, it was like weird, but they were both right. Over the years, I've had a lot of critics, and I've had a lot of love. And I tell you what, obviously I love the love better, but I don't mind the critics at all.
And there's a base hit that's going to pick him up. Gutierrez, he can throw. Here's the play. Safe. Pierre in the second, and this game is tied at 1.
Hello, Hawk. My goodness, great to see you. How you doing, buddy? Who was telling me the other day that they just cut Dustin Pedroia? He said, Hawk's the best for me because I love homers. I love homers.
It's the best compliment you can pay me. When that guy from Wall Street Journal called me last year and said, we did a survey and you're number one. You're the number one homer in baseball. I said, well, you just made my day.
That ball hit high and deep, way back, and he's not quite out of here. Dadgummit.
When we lose, there's not one person in that clubhouse who is more upset than I am.
Pops him up. Gillespie. And now Beckham. And we find yet another way. That's hard to believe.
You gotta be kidding me.
You have got to be kidding me.
I turned down 3 managers' jobs, and that's the reason I turned them down. Because my temper is not conducive to being a good manager at all.
I'll tell you, that is unbelievable. Brinkman makes the sign, he sees the play, makes a damn call, and then rescinds it.
Absolute monumental, brutal call right there, and not having the guts to stay with it. Joe Brinkman made the call on the ground rule double, and then absolutely flat choked it right there when the winning run scored, Wimpy.
The worst I ever was with Joe West when he called the balks on Burley.
Now Joe's going to give him some argument because Mark's saying, what do you do? Joe, just get over there and umpire, will you?
Yeah.
Just get over there and umpire, that's all.
Now Ozzy's coming up to talk with Joe, and what he's going to say is...
Joe looks like he is looking for problems with us.
I sat over there, I was screaming. I mean, I went off on Joe, and I just lit into him.
He's called a balk again.
And now he just throws him out of the ball. Joe Burley, I'll tell you what, Joe West deserves a suspension, is what he does. He needs a rest. I'll tell you what, Mark Burley is one of, Joe West just wanted to stick it right up his behind, and he did.
I said, he's not calling those balks on Mark Burley. He's calling those balks on Ozzie again.
He should be suspended. That is a flat-out, absolute disgrace to the umpiring profession, what this guy has been doing.
You know, when I did that thing with Mark Wegner, I feel bad about that.
What job? Oh, what are you doing?
Not so much about what I said, but because I put Bud Selig, Jerry Reinsdorf, and Robin Ventura in a bad spot. And I apologized to all 3 of them.
He threw him out of the ball game. You gotta be vaping me. What in the hell are you doing? What are you doing, Wagner? I'll tell you what, they have got to start making guys be accountable. That is totally absurd.
Here's Robin, a first-year manager, and he's got to, apologize for one of his announcers, lighting this guy up. And I talked with Bud. I told him, I said, Bud, I put you in a bad spot. And he said, yes, you did.
That is absolutely unbelievable. All right, we'll be back.
Coming up, Ken Harrelson becomes the Hawk.
Fans in Boston really created, I would say they really created the Hawk.
Walking, keeping, squawking, talking about the buzzsaw.
My first 2 years in the big leagues, I made more money playing golf, shooting pool, and arm wrestling than I did playing Major League Baseball. Ted Boesfield and I played Gino Smoley and Sammy Esposito at $25 Nassau. So we went out, we played 27 holes that day. So by the time we did that, I went right to the ballpark. Sure enough, I'm taking batting practice and I got a blister right here. But I remembered I had my golf glove in my jeans upstairs. And I come to bat in the first inning and I put this flaming red golf glove on. And boy, when I walked to the plate with that golf glove, Yankees were on me so bad you couldn't believe it. Well, don't you know Whitey hung me a curveball. And I hit that son of a gun about 450 feet over that left center field wall. So about the 6th inning, he hung me another curveball. And I hit that one about 480 feet over that thing. Well, the next day, all the Yankees come out of the clubhouse, and they all got flaming red golf gloves on. Mickey had the clubby go out and buy a couple dozen golf gloves, and that's how the hitting glove got started. Dick Hauser gave me the nickname Hawk. When I signed at 17, went down to Winter Ball in Clearwater, Florida, and Dick Hauser was there. It's where they brought the prospects, and they played a schedule down in Florida. And I was really having a tough time. And at the time, they had a cartoon character named Henrietta Hawk. And he was calling me Henrietta Hawk. And so I'd struck out 3 or 4 times this one game. And, Dick was a little guy. And I used to call him Slick. And so he said, something about Henrietta, and I went over to him. I said, Slick, let me tell you something. I said, I'm tired of this. I don't need it. I'm tired of it. Don't call me that anymore. And he said, well, maybe if you get a hit or something, I'll drop to Henrietta. Well, don't you know the next day I hit a home run or something, and he dropped, and he started calling me Hawk. And, you know, my nose has been broken a few times, and every time somebody swung, that's where they hit me right there. But that's where the Hawk came from. And I said, yeah, it's okay. Hawk, yeah, I like that. From there on out was Hawk Harrelson.
It was 50 years ago, and 21-year-old Hawk Harrelson played his first Major League game. His team then, and for most of his first 5 years in the majors, was the Kansas City Athletics. The colorful owner of the A's was Charlie Finley. Publicity stunts from Finley were commonplace, including one that involved riding the team mascot, which happened to be a mule. Harrelson agreed to ride Charlie O before a game, but for a price.
Damn right, I wouldn't have rode him if he didn't. 25 bucks. 25 bucks in those days, especially in New York, okay? Because we used to go on those long road trips, and if New York was the first stop, you were screwed. Because you spent all your meal money in New York, and we only got $10 a day. So 25 bucks, nobody said anything. I said, I'll ride him. So I had him, I put my hat, you know, jockey, and I had him going wide open around. That's the biggest Missouri mule I've ever seen. That Charlie O was a big mule. And no saddle, just a blanket. And I had him going wide open around, and so I see Maris and Mantles, and I saw Roger with a fungo in his hand, and I said, oh, sure enough, I got in front of the Yankee dugout, and Roger threw that fungo, hit him right in the ass, and he started bucking. And I had a big chaw back in my mouth, and all of a sudden I slid underneath, and I'm looking at him, and his teeth are that long, and my nose is that long. I swallowed my whole chaw tobacco. Finally, the trainer comes out and says, get off. So I dropped down, I ran in, and I threw up right in the runway down there.
Riding a mule might seem like good-natured fun, but Harrelson actually genuinely disliked Charlie Finley. And for the Hawk, the final straw came when Finley fired manager Alvin Dark.
I just went crazy. I mean, and I just exploded, and the media came over to me, and I said a lot of things I shouldn't have said. So the next morning we're asleep, and the phone rings, and I knew who it was. I pick up the phone, he says, son. I said, hello, Mr. Finley. He says, what are you trying to do to me? I said, I'm not trying to do anything to you, Mr. Finley. I said, you made a mistake. He said, well, I've arranged for a noon press conference, and I want a full retraction of everything you said. And I said, Mr. Finley, I'm not going to do that. And when I said that, boy, he tore into me. He started calling me names and cussing me out. And he says, what do you want, your release? I said, no, I don't want my release. He said, I'll call you back in a half an hour. Slams down the phone. So 20 minutes later, the phone rings. I pick it up, it's him. That's all he said. As of this moment, you are no longer a member of the green and gold. Boom, and slams it down.
So, several days later, Ken Harrelson became a member of the Boston Red Sox and found himself hitting cleanup behind Hall of Famer Carl Yastrzemski in a memorable pennant race.
There's a drive into left center field by the Hawk. It is off the wall, and Foy is being trailed home by Yastrzemski.
With Yaz as the MVP, the Red Sox won the pennant in '67, and Harrelson got to play in his only World Series. It was in 1968, though, that he'd have his best season, finishing third in the MVP race.
Ken Harrelson, his third hit of the ball game, and there is number 100 RBI for Ken Harrelson. Well tagged to left center field, home run. Kenny Harrelson, who is really on a tear.
It was a year that would make the Hawk famous.
The fans in Boston really created, I would say they really created the Hawk, because Yaz is, Triple Crown winner and the greatest clutch hitter I've ever seen to this day, best left fielder I've ever seen to this day. But Yaz didn't have that personality, okay? And there was no personalities there. And I think what happened was that the people were really looking for a personality, and the Hawks saw that and let it come out.
Ball one, ball two, ball three.
Don't walk the Hawk, here he comes up to the plate. The fans in the stands, they all wait. They're shouting, don't walk him, keep him squawking, talking about the Bo Sox.
What do you think when you see that?
I thought I'd signed every one they've ever printed, but, what the hell? It is what it was. You know, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed my schedule when I was with the Red Sox. I would get up in the morning. I'd get up early every morning, and I don't care what time I went to bed. And I'd go out and I'd go down Boylston Street and I'd shop for a while. And they brought these Nehru suits in. And I liked them. I bought about 7 or 8. I bought one of every color they had. This is the only one I ever got to wear before they went out of style. That's how fast they came in and went out. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Ken Harrelson is a different guy than Hawk. Ken is a guy who is very shy, introverted, and people who know me know this. Hawk on the other side of the page is a guy who's protected me all my life. It was a way to handle my fear. It was a way to handle my insecurity. And because I was afraid, Hawk wasn't.
When does Ken become the Hawk? Does the Hawk walk into the stadium?
No,
or is it,
not at all.
It's always Ken?
No, usually, unfortunately, the only time Hawk really comes out alive is when the umpires.
Can't get him. Oh, no! No!
He was safe at first.
No! No!
Or in case somebody's throwing at some of our guys, he gets a little upset too. There was an occasion a couple of years ago down in Texas where Vicente Padilla hit AJ twice, right in the back, two times in a row. Well, Hawk wanted to go down and kick his butt after the game. And I did go to the Texas thing. I stood there for a few minutes, waiting to see if Padilla was going to come out. And finally, Kenny was convinced him, whatever, hey, you don't need this. Let's go back in the clubhouse.
Up next, Hawk talks about his famous friends, including Broadway Joe, Rocky Marciano, and Vince Lombardi.
I couldn't stand Vince Lombardi, being from Kansas City.
Walking, keeping, squawking, talking about the Bosox.
Tell me about your boxing career.
Well, when I grew up in Savannah, everybody had a boxing club. You know, I had one in Macon, Augusta, Charleston, Jacksonville, you know, Atlanta. And I had 8 amateur fights. I didn't fight under my name because of my mom. She just definitely didn't want me to have anything to do with it. It was Tommy Shocker. And then I won all 8 of those, and the promoter, they were paying like $5 each, you know, to get in. And he wanted the money, so he said, well, let me find somebody to fight. So he picked out a guy, and I knew him. He was a friend of mine. He was a little guy. He's 155, 160 pounds, something like that. So I said, I'm not going to fight him. I said, you know, he's my buddy. Well, he came out. 10 seconds gone in the first round, he hit me with a left, and I went down, and I was 10 toes up just looking at lights. That's the only thing. That was more or less the end of my boxing career right there. Tony Horton and I had gone over to have dinner, and the maitre d' comes over and he says, Mr. Harrelson? I said, yes. He says, Mr. Marciano was upstairs. He'd like for you and your friends to come up and have some birthday cake with him. And this is only like 2 or 3 days before he crashed and got killed. You know, he was going to Iowa for something. And Rocky, I'd met Rocky before. You know, he was a baseball fan, Red Sox fan and everything. So we went up, we started talking and everything. And I asked him, I said, Rocky, I said, what would you have done with Cassius Clay? He said, Hawk, he said, he's the fastest heavyweight that ever lived. He said, and he would have cut me up, but in 15 rounds, I'd have caught him and I'd have knocked him out. And then he said, I heard you used to box. He said, a friend of mine told me he saw you box one. I said, yeah. He said, what if I could promote a fight with you and Sonny Liston? And this is 1969. I said, well, he'd probably know me. I said, how much money are you talking about? He said, well, how much money do you want? And I said, I'll do it for $100,000. And he looks like this, you know, and he goes, at Fenway Park, we'll sell it out with you there. I said, $100,000, Rocky. He goes, let's do it, like that. And, but then Rocky, of course, crashed and got killed. But Rocky was, I liked Rocky. He was a good man.
Rocky Marciano was far from the only marquee sports figure the Hawk knew during those years. Sure, he knew baseball players, but he also hung out with lots of big names from other sports in the late 60s and early 70s, including one with an even more colorful nickname than Harrelson's own, and that would be Broadway Joe.
Joe and I at one time were pretty tight. The night before they played the Colts, I was at the Palm Bay Club down in Miami. And Joe and I were together, and we were together till about, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was not drinking. And I asked him, I said, Joe, what's going to happen tomorrow? He said, Hawk, he said, I'll tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. He said, Colts are in a zone. They're not going to change. They're not going to change what got them here. He said, I'm going to 6 and 8 yard them to death, and we're going to win this ball game. He 4-6, 8, 4, 6, 7. Midway through the first quarter, you knew the Jets had a good chance of winning, and they beat them. The King, Arnold Palmer. Arnold and I just played golf, and a good friend of ours named Dick Ferris, who used to be chairman of the board and CEO of United Airlines, and he was the one that had Arnold and, in the commercials and everything. So we're sitting down there, and after a round of golf, and Dick asked me, it was a pointed question, and I knew that. He asked me, he says, Hawk, he said, who's the most charismatic athlete you've ever met? And I looked at Arnold and I goes, you're number 2. And he goes, well, who's number 1? I said, number 9. Ted Williams. He started laughing. Ted Williams and I are having dinner. This is after I retired. I'm broadcasting now. And Ted comes down to the spring training. All the 150 hours we talked on hitting. Never talked to him about DiMaggio. And I said, tell me about DiMaggio, because they didn't like each other at all. I said, Ted, tell me about that trade where DiMaggio's going to come to Fenway, you're going to go to Yankee Stadium with that little short porch out there. He says, to hell with Yankee Stadium. He said, put me in Detroit. I said, well, how many home runs would you have averaged in Detroit? He said, 75 a year. And you got to believe him. I said, well, tell me about DiMaggio. He goes, he's the best right-handed hitter I ever saw. This is amazing. I had never talked with Joe about baseball. I said, Joe, tell me about Ted Williams and that trade that you were going to go to Fenway, and he was going to go to New York. I said, how many home runs would you have averaged in Fenway? He said, probably around 70 a year, which you got to believe him. I said, well, tell me about Ted. He goes, he's the best left-handed hitter I ever saw. Almost verbatim, the two of them. Jackie Gleason. Jackie had heard where, I played a lot of pool, and one of his entourage comes over and says, Jackie would like to meet you, so I know where we talked. And he says, why don't you come over to the house? He didn't live, he just lived right around the corner. Why don't you come over and have a game of pool? I said, I'd love to. This is Jackie Gleason, Well, I'm gonna tell you something, he's a good player. He was a good player. We went over, we played, and had a ball. He was Jackie Gleason. I couldn't stand Vince Lombardi, being from Kansas City. After they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, he said, well, there are a lot of teams in the NFL can beat the Chiefs. And boy, when he said that, I snapped. Hawk got pissed. So now I'm playing with Boston, doing pretty good, We walk in and go play with Senators in Washington. And I'm going to get an ice cream cone or popsicle. And I see these two guys down the hallway down there. And I recognize Lombardi, I didn't recognize the other guy. So I'm in just my shower shoes and shorts, So I look, and he goes, Hawk, could I speak to you a minute? So I didn't like this guy. So now I open up the thing, freezer, take out a popsicle, take off the top, very defiantly, like a butthole, and saunter down there. He says, Hawk, he says, I followed you. He says, you could have played football for me. Here's a guy I did not like. We talked for about 10 minutes. When I walked out of that room, I'd have gone right through that friggin' wall for him. When he got sick, I flew down from Boston to see him. That's what kind of guy Vince Lombardi was.
Ball 1, ball 2, ball 3.
Don't Walk the Hawk? The Val Perry Trio. They wrote it. Left field wall at Fenway Park is his bag. First time I heard it was actually in spring training in Winter Haven in 1969. It was a restaurant we used to go to, and they were playing, Valperi Trio was playing there, and so I'd walk in and they'd be up on stage singing, they'd see me, and they'd stop and immediately break in.
Walking, keeping, squawking, talking about the buzzsaw.
Ken Harrelson will be in Cleveland tomorrow, and weather permitting will be in the lineup when we play the Yankees at Municipal Stadium. We're glad to have him.
In 1969, desperate for pitching, Boston traded Harrelson to the Indians.
As you know, I have a strong feeling for Alvin Dark, and I feel like that Cleveland Ball Club now has a real good chance to win the pennant, and it's just going to be a real challenge for me to see if we can come back after Cleveland's bad start this year and get back right in the thick of the race.
The Hawk hit 27 homers for the Tribe that year, but perhaps the highlight of his stay in Cleveland was the TV show he hosted, called The Hawk's Nest.
That was fun. I had done something in Boston. I had done, they asked me to do the special. I had Peter, Paul, and Mary on, and we did this special, and had a big audience, in the studio there. And had a ball, and I sort of liked it. And then when I got traded to Cleveland, they asked me if I wanted to do the show there, a weekly show. And the show went over well. It really did.
And you did Who's On First with Sam McDowell, right?
Yes, I did. And Sam got, he got faced. He had about 6 beers. It was a hot day in Cleveland, and this was after the game. And he had like 6 beers, and we did this thing, and I'll tell you, it was hilarious.
Do you know any of their names?
Sure, we have Who's On First, What's On Second, I Don't Know's On Third.
That's what I'm trying to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the players out there.
I'm telling you. Who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know's on third.
Do you know the fellows' names?
Yes.
Well, and who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's names on first.
Who?
The fellow playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who's on first?
The Hawks' stay in Cleveland was short. In 1970, he broke his ankle in spring training, and as a player, he was never the same.
Raleigh Fingers was really the cause of that, because he had me 0-2 and screwed around and walked me, and now I'm on first base, and Max Alvis hit a ground ball down to Sal Bando at third, and he bobbled it. So I went in, and I was going to slide, and I said, no, I'm not going to slide. By that time, I heard a pow, pow. I knew my leg was broken, and in that rehab period, I lost all interest in playing baseball, and I wanted to do something else. I wanted to go into golf.
Ken Harrelson was actually a lot more than just a good weekend player. He was good enough to play with some of the great players of that time, including Tom Weiskopf, Lee Trevino, even Jack Nicklaus, and good enough to actually qualify to play in the 1972 British Open.
Jack and I started talking and playing some golf together, and so in '72, we were talking. He says, "You're going to go over and try to qualify for the Open?" And I said, "No." He said, "Hawk, you should. You're playing too good." So I went home that night. And I thought about it. I said, "Well, if Jack Nicklaus tells me that, I got So I got the forms, filled them out, and went over, and we qualified at Ghislaine, which is a sister course to Muirfield. So I'm in. I'm in the tournament. So first day I shoot 75, and I had 6 3-putts. I was knocking them 6, 7 feet by and missing them coming back. And the next day, I had 5 3-putts, and I missed the cut by a shot. I had 11 3-putts in 2 days and missed the cut by a shot, so it'll tell you how good I was hitting it. But I didn't know how to play. I didn't know how to play, and everything when I was playing good, everything was okay. But if I double bogeyed a hole, then the Hawk got upset, and that's when the club started flying.
What's the maddest you ever got in the golf course?
Well, the maddest I ever got was I was playing in a money game, and we were tied coming up to the 18th hole. And it was for a considerable amount. And I just absolutely blocked it dead right, hit it out of bounds. And it took me a couple of minutes. By the time we walked off that tee, I had 14 clubs in my bag. And there were 28 pieces stuck in the ground. Because I broke every one of them right over my knee and stuck it in the ground. I think I'll know and break it, but pow, pow. I broke every club in the bag. I just took an empty bag back to the cart. I'll tell you the one thing about when I decided to quit golf. was my wife. We were playing a mini tour in Savannah. Okay, Fuzzy was there, Bruce Litsky, Bobby Watkins, Bill Rogers. You know, we had a good field there. So we all shot 68 the first day, and we paired, the four of us paired together the last day, and I shot myself out of it, you know, putting and everything. And then when we got in, I took my clubs off the cart, and I smashed them against this oak tree there at Savannah in the Country Club. Broke every club in the bag, and I looked over at my wife, and she started crying. I said, that's it. That's the day I retired from golf. Come this September, will be 40 years we've been married. She's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. If I hadn't met her, when you're drinking every night and you're going out and getting in a fight every night, you're going to get dead. And that's what would have happened, because I had to quit. I said, if I don't quit, I'm going to lose her. So I quit.
Baseball legend, and that's a birdie at the 18th.
Watch the walk. Yeah.
The Hawk Walk.
How'd you come up with the Hawk Walk?
I did that in Salt Lake City. We had a rain delay. This was in AAA. This is in '63. And so Lou Krause, who really could do it great, because he's a sway back, you know, and he had a big butt, you know, and he'd go. So Lou says, come on, let's give the fans something to laugh about. So we did a little, you know, imitation. He was pitching, I'm hitting and everything, and then he was giving this and I was giving that. And because we had seen Max Patkin. I had seen Max in the year before in the Eastern League. In Charleston, West Virginia, we were playing them. We went to this nightclub, and Max was there. What a great guy. What a great entertainer he was, you know, and what a dancer. And he was doing this. I actually got that from Max Patkin, and, you know, and Lou Krause. But the fans loved it. And then I carried it over into golf. When I would make a birdie, I'd give the Hawk Walk.
Look at that.
And one day I'm playing in some tournament, I forget where it was, I had 10 birdies. My back was killing me. I was doing so many Hawk Walks.
Ken Harrelson, White Sox announcer, former baseball star for Eagle at the 18th. And the Hawk Walk comes out again.
In the late 70s, done with his dream of becoming a professional golfer, the Hawk began his broadcasting career with the Red Sox.
Sit back and just enjoy this one. This is what it comes down to after 162 games. I think it's very fitting, very apropos, with these two great ball clubs to have to tee it up.
You know, while I was broadcasting their games, the Red Sox asked me to manage the team twice. First year was '77 when they fired DJ, Darrell Johnson. O'Connell called me in Kansas City and said, we're going to fire DJ, why don't you take over the ball club? So I said, I don't want to take over the ball club. He says, why not? I said, because you don't want my temper on that bench. He said, well, who should I get? I said, see if you can get Yogi. He said, I can't get Yogi. I said, well, Popeye, get Popeye. Players love him. Don Zimmer, third base coach. I said, get Popeye. He said, you think he'd take it for just the rest of the year? I said, call him and ask him. He said, will you call him and ask him? I said, sure. So we're at the Adams Mark Hotel in Kansas City, and I call Popeye's room. I said, look, they're going to fire DJ, and we'll know if you'll take over the club for just the rest of the year. He said, this is exactly what he says. Hawk, he said, I'll take it on a day-to-day contract. The irony, too, was that when they fired Zim, they wanted me to take over the club. And finally, I determined that this is not a good deal, because my wife doesn't understand what it would be like to be married to a high-profile manager here in Boston with a bad temper. And he said, okay.
Harrelson moved from the Red Sox to the White Sox broadcast booth in the early 80s, and in 1986, Chicago made him their general manager.
To show you how good of a general manager I was, Tony La Russa was managing the ball club. He was the first manager I hired because his contract was up, so when I came in, I rehired him. But to show you how good of a general manager I was, Tony La Russa managed 34 years in the big leagues, won 3 world championships, one in each league, you know. Arguably the greatest manager who ever lived. But he only got fired one time in 34 years, and you're talking to the guy who fired him. That's how good of a general manager I was.
It was something, as I said, it was a baseball decision. And we felt like we had to make it. And I talked with Jerry and Eddie yesterday and told them how I felt. And at that point, they said that you got to do what you got to do. So the decision was made.
And the media started getting on me, I mean, crucifying me. And I came down. We were living in Lyle. I came down one morning for breakfast, and our daughter Krista was reading the newspaper. She was a youngster. And she had tears in her eyes. So reading about how horse her dad was, you know. And that was it. That was just like when I saw my wife crying when I broke those golf clubs. I knew I had to quit. When I saw our daughter, that was it. So I went back to the booth, and I've been there ever since.
And this ball game is over.
You know, I've been fortunate enough to watch some great careers come through here. The 3 greatest right-handed hitters to come in the American League in the last 50 years have been Frank Thomas, Manny Ramirez, and Miguel Cabrera. And just think, you get to watch these guys their whole careers. And I've seen so many great players. I played against, in 1964, we were playing the Yankees, and I'm playing first base. But Mickey hit a 2-hopper to the second baseman. And here he comes. He ran hard. He ran on his heels like this. You could feel him coming down the line. And he beat the play. And Mickey could not stop quick like you and I can. He had to go on down and like break it down because of his legs. He came back to first base, and he had tears in his eyes, tears coming down his eyes. On the first pitch, he steals second. He slides in, a little hook slide to the right. When he gets up, the whole side of his back of his uniform is red because he popped that bandage out that Whitey used to have to, you know, do it with, and that hole he had in his hip. You see things like that. I mean, I've only kept 4 things. I'm not a memorabilia guy. I've only kept 4 things in my whole career. I kept this Red Sox World Series ring. I kept this White Sox World Series ring. There's only 2 guys on the planet that got both of them. And I'm one of them. I kept the Player of the Year plaque. And I kept this beautiful montage that Mickey sent me. Mickey and I were tight. We played a lot of golf together. We ran together a lot. We had a lot of fun. And Mickey never realized how much we loved him. I played against Mickey for 6 years. I played against Mickey the last game he ever played. 1968, Fenway Park. Houck sent him up to pinch hit. We all knew it was his last game. I'm standing in right field crying. I look over at Yaz in left field, he's crying. I couldn't see the infielders, but I'll guarantee you some of them were crying too. People never realized, or Mickey didn't, how much we loved him. And he told me, Hawk, you know, he said, the worst thing I ever did in my life was to name one of my kids Mickey Jr. He said, but how the hell did I know I was going to grow up to be Mickey Mantle?
Give me the origins of some of your catchphrases.
When I played, I'd be standing in right field. Killebrew would come to the plate. Lonborg would be on the mound. He'd punch him out and say, grab some bench. Or he gone.
He gone. He'll grab some bench for out number 2.
And I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Everybody down in the South says mercy.
Now ball. Look at the play by Gillespie. Pick. Yes. Mercy.
You know, that's the way it is. Everybody says mercy.
That's it deep. Way back. Way back. Put it on the board.
That came from golf. They gave me an exemption in 76, 77 to play at Pleasant Valley in Sutton, Mass. You know, the PGA Tour stop there. I birdied this par 3. I shot 68 the first day. Then I birdied this par 3. I knocked in about a 20-footer. And back they didn't have electronic scoreboards in those days. They had manual scoreboards. And there was a guy with a pipe, an older guy, and he was reading a book, and as I was walking off the green, and he's not moving. The guy, I looked at him, I said, "Put it on the board," like that. And then where the yes came from was our daughter, Krista, who was a terrific competitive diver. You got a daughter standing up there on a 10-meter board, and she's getting ready to do a 2.5 or a 3.5. And every time she had hit one, you couldn't have pulled a grease tee out of my behind with a pair of pliers. That's how tense I was. She'd go off that board, and when she'd yes! So one day, somebody hits a home run. And I said, "You can put it on the board, yes!"
And that ball hit hard. Stay fair. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yeah.
What's the best call you ever made on the air?
I don't know. I've been lucky. I've called 13 no-hitters. I think without question, though, the biggest moment for me is Burley's perfect game. The reason is because of Mark Burley, the person.
Line drive. Call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. Mark Burley has a perfect game going to the 9th.
Mark Burley is my all-time favorite White Sox player. If it had been, I'm not going to name a guy, but if it had been Jimmy Jones or Sammy Smith, who was an asshole, and he goes out there and pitches a perfect game, you go up and say, "Nice game," it was terrific, and that's it. But when you get a guy like Mark Burley, when he pitched that perfect game, I cried.
Alexei! Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley. Unbelievable!
After 50 years in this game, it's given me a life that I didn't deserve. I didn't deserve it. I worked hard in this game. I played hard. In fact, the greatest compliment ever paid me was by Alvin Dark, who managed some good players in his career. And he was in an article or a book or something. He said that of all the guys I ever managed, the guy who wanted to win a baseball game more than anybody that I ever managed was Ken Harrelson. And it's given me the opportunity to do something I love and be with the right people. I have worked for Tom Yonke, and I've worked for Jerry Reinsdorf. And those are two of the greatest men that baseball has ever seen. I've been very fortunate, very lucky in my life. Hi, Stevie, thank you. And once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to White Sox Baseball right here with WGN Sports on the U. So happy you can join us for Game 2 of this 3-game set. If I could write my script, I would be in the booth. And Caneco at the plate, Sabathia on the mound. Here's the pitch. That ball hit hard, way back. Granderson looks up, you can put it on the board. Boom. Hey, go. That would be it for me.